Just go Here I am with Mike Wescott from the Mike Wescott Band, and he was nice enough to volunteer his time for the fieldwork project for my MUSC-210 class. I'm George Powell, and thank you, Mike, for coming this evening.
Thank you for having me.
And I have 3 questions for you.
All right.
And the first question, I guess we'll just jump right into it. How did you come about selecting the instrument you play, and how long have you been playing it?
All right. How did I come about selecting it? I traveled through many different instruments to get here. I started with drums. My mom and dad played in a band. I grew up basically watching them rehearse and going to their shows, so I had my choice of instruments kind of hanging around the house, guitar and drums, and my mom sang, and well, I liked the drums. You could just beat them, and anything could happen. You know, you couldn't really go wrong if you found the right rhythm and kept the beat. But the guitar was staring at me for a long time. I started playing when I was 10, after going through many other instruments, saxophone, piano, bass guitar, kind of working my way towards it. But it was about 13, when I was 13 years old, a couple of rock musicians had really inspired me to just go ahead and grab an electric guitar, and I haven't stopped since.
Okay. And I guess the next question would be, what can you tell me from your perspective about the culture your music of choice originated from? And can you read the sheet music for that type of music?
I can read sheet music for any style of music. Well, most styles of music, especially American music. I say that knowing that there's some music that maybe I don't know about them. Where the blues, to me, it's interesting because I learned how to play the blues through rock musicians like Eddie Van Halen, and believe it or not, one of my favorite blues guys was Eddie Van Halen. I loved the guitar, was introduced to it, inspired to play it mainly off of watching Van Halen and Brian Setzer with Stray Cats, and diving deep to hear what these guys listened to. It blew my mind. He says, you know, in an interview, he says he loved Eric Clapton, and his favorite song was Crossroads from the band Cream. And I'm thinking, whoa, I've been listening to that. I've been stealing that album from my mom's collection for years now. So that's downstairs. And he says he loved Jimi Hendrix. I'm thinking, whoa, I've been listening to that too. That's downstairs as well. I keep stealing that. So it was interesting. It seemed like every single guy or girl or whoever I wanted to dive deep with with who inspired them, they all seemed to go back to the same guys.
Right.
And they went deeper, you know, and found other guys like Elmer James or Muddy Waters or B.B. King, you know, Freddie King, and Albert King, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and many others. But yes, and I can read and write sheet music for it as well.
Okay. Do you feel that you can compose a piece of music based on the way the culture that used this instrument would have?
Yes, I do.
Because you've been playing out live for a while, and you have several originals.
Yes, I think I can. I've actually put out several blues songs on several releases. I would say that it's a matter of opinion on whether it's you know a good representation, but I think it is. It truly it's an art form that can be replicated quite easily. It just takes a little bit of time to learn the style, but then to be able to apply your emotion to it as well. Okay.
So, what styles have you adopted? I noticed you play with your fingers a lot, but you also use a pick.
I do.
Is there any one you prefer over the other one?
That would depend on the mood, and depend on the song, and the mood, and maybe even the environment. There are times where I might just try to be really quiet. You know, I'm trying to play an acoustic gig. Or, for example, here's one of my blues songs called Swamp Monster Blues. Playing with the fingers. I can do that at a nice dinner hour and be nice and quiet with people, you know.
Right.
Give a nice texture to emotion, but if I want to get angry with it, take out the pick, you know. gives me a different choice whether I want to really hit somebody with it or kind of ease them into it. So that's a good way to go back and forth with that.
So do you primarily play electric, or do you enjoy acoustic guitar just as much, or?
I enjoy the electric the most. I do love the acoustic guitar, and I do find that when I play the acoustic, it's just I go a different avenue, I go a different feel, and I often can't really even think about playing the acoustic the same way as I'm doing the electric.
Right, it's a different feel, different style.
I try to get real aggressive with the acoustic guitar, but it doesn't always wind up the way I want it to.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that's it for the interview portion of my fieldwork project. Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go ahead and play us out.
All right.
All right.
Well, let me get my bottleneck and finish that Swamp Monster Blues song.
All right.
Here.
After the interview questions, and he had some other things to say about music in general, and I'm just going to let him freeform, and we'll share our thoughts.
Well, thank you, George.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, when you asked me to come, I just started thinking, diving deeper in my own brain of what the blues actually meant to me, and looking back deeper to where it came from and where it's going, and it just a lot came to me. It's just the whole simplified phrasing of actually the cross rhythms, the call and response, just everything that involved the original blues, giving time to get the emotions, the impression, everything that's going on out, because they had no other way of expressing any other emotion. It all builds up into a way of communicating and being able to maybe get a way out and get on the Underground Railroad. And it's just all of this, it was the imperfect nature of it, of just singing along and have a nice cadence that we can all sing along to, and the cross rhythm gets your attention. It was something new that wasn't done at the time. It was punk to what American music was at the time. Mm-hmm. And everybody's thinking, what is this? What kind of music is this, right? Well, I think it was the punk of its age. It was. Okay. It sure was. For whatever reason, it derived from. It ends up being, joyful, and we end up having a way of expressing our good feelings and bad feelings through it. And it's not just blues, and then ragtime and jazz, rock and roll, British invasion comes through, trying to replicate all of it. Mm-hmm. But look where we are now. Everything that's cool is what's not cool. And as soon as people find out, hey, this underground stuff that I heard about, it's coming up and it's going to be the next cool thing, well, now it's not cool anymore. And that's our way of just being punk, but the simplified version of the going back to the blues music, just this whole just having that alone, making it simple enough for people to get into it, maybe even play along, tap their foot, is what people want to catch on to. Have a nice melody, And then having the imperfect nature of having the blues, being able to sing, being able to play, and being able to actually, us human beings, get along with these incredible stars that are on the radio, the ones playing the rock and roll and the blues, like the Rolling Stones when they were doing it, for example, Led Zeppelin, we can get there. Mm. It's raunchy, it's not perfect. Mm. And then, we start replicating it and think, well, we can do our own thing. And here we are, we're just still growing with the blues.
I know you mentioned earlier about the call and response flow of the song. And one of the things that I discovered in my research, especially in the early formative years of the blues, when they were working in the fields, that would be the call and response across the field. Like one person would say one thing and then another person would say something else. And the music would create the cadence by which they worked.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess a perfect example of that, or more simplified version of that, would be when soldiers are on a march.
Yes.
The drill sergeant does a da 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 da, and then the soldiers go da 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 da. You know, they have their call and response.
I think that there, and I think there's two sides to every coin here, and I think that we could probably even date this back to, you know, Roman times. We keep going back to this, but for that exact same thing happening on that same side of the track, go to the other side of the track where you have the actual chain gang, and you have the I ain't working for the man no more. I ain't working for the. You have the same exact thing with the call and response with the chain gang songs, and those were actually also a big way of you know, getting out your emotion. You know, being, you know, the oppression of a lot of people actually were probably wrongfully, you know, imprisoned back then too. But you know, maybe some were. I don't know. I don't know.
And you think that has an effect on the lyrical styles that blues has? Because it seems that the first verse, they sing the first verse, they play the little interlude part, or the instrumental part, then they repeat it.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's like
It's exactly what it is.
That repeat themselves.
The whole song is doing that, I think, to be honest. I mean, yeah, it's you know, I went down to the cross, tried to flag a ride. You know, down to the crossroads, tried to flag a ride. You have the equal time with no vocal. Every time you have that vocal out there, you have the equal time without the vocal too. So there's a call and response to the call and response,
right, even
within the song. And maybe the drummer's even doing the same thing. It's that cross rhythm that gets so heavy between the vocalist repeating and calling, the guitarist doing the same thing, and the drummer over there. It's amazing when you think about some of these intertwined call and response. You know, it's just it goes deep.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Go ahead. Play us out again.
Yeah, just to show you, I think that the blues will never die. You know, just take a good blues form and just go out with it.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.